Hello and welcome. Good to know you there. Thank you for being around. Always when we come for the class like this. Now we already started with dietary copper and we've seen how it has been very useful in pigmentation and also growth of animals and humans. Now we already started actually with the historical part of it, that is started from the ancient Egyptians using it to heal wounds, and also that it was discovered that copper was a key element in helping pigmentation, that is coloration of hair, skin and fur of animals. And then we looked at the sources, which are animal sources, that is from the liver being a very important source of most minerals including copper. And we also considered plant sources like dried fruits like dates and whole grains, oats, cereals and the others. Dark leafy vegetables, especially spinach, kale, very good source of copper. Now you want to get a full scale of it, check the previous video. Just go to the previous video, you'll see this important fact. Now today what we have is absorption of copper and metabolism, so we'll take it one by one. Now the absorption. Now the main site of absorption of most minerals, including copper, is the small intestine. The small intestine, particularly the duodenum and the jejunum. Now you know the small intestine comprises the duodenum, jejunum and the ileum. So the duodenum and jejunum is the actual part, the spots where you absorb copper, most minerals, after they've been ingested. Now, beyond this, there's also other information to know in absorption, is that to aid absorption of copper, certain amino acids and organic acids actually enhance copper because they form a kind of complex with it. One of them is ceruloplasmin. We'll get here. They form a kind of complex with it. The copper binds with the molecule of ceruloplasmin and the other amino acids, and then they are moved to different sites where they are needed. Now, also high level of zinc, of iron and vitamin C and phytic acid can reduce copper absorption. Now, what does that tell us? That is a kind of antagonistic relationship between copper and zinc, between copper and iron and vitamin C, ascorbic acid. And that's what we talked about, other organic acids. Now it shows that when, and also some phytates. What are phytates? Some phytic acid and salt of phytic acid. Now, they also can reduce in such a way that when this kind of antagonistic relationship, where the higher the quantity or level of zinc available, it means a reversal effect, the lower quantity of this. So, or if you have excess of this, it will reduce the absorption of copper. So, it's a kind of exclusive relationship. If this is available, this may not be so much. So a high level of zinc or excess level of zinc or iron can affect the absorption of copper. So you know that everything needs to be within a range that is acceptable so that you can have others. Now, the next important information on absorption of copper is that copper is absorbed into the intestinal cells and bound to protein before they enter into the bloodstream. I already mentioned ceruloplasmin. Albumin is also another, where the copper binds to, they bind them, and so they are now transported into the bloodstream. Now, transportation, metabolism will be the next. Now, we'll talk about metabolism of copper, and in fact, most other minerals. But in the true sense, it's not exactly metabolism. In most cases, it's actually transportation. Now, metabolism actually refers to a process where there is the breaking down of an ingested nutrient, and then it is then built again, in which case the two parts of it, which is catabolism, breaking down and then restructuring of it into the form and the way in which the body or the particular organ will need it. So, but this time we look at the 4 different things that happen after a mineral, for example, copper, is absorbed. First thing that happens is transportation. And then when it's transported to a site called the liver, what happens? And then after the liver, the distribution to the sites. Then excess of it is excreted. What happens to the excess? Now let's go back to the first, transportation. Copper will set here and set here, binds with certain proteins like albumin and celluloplasmin, and they are moved to the liver. Now when they move to the liver, copper is then stored temporarily. Now when we were talking about, I talked about it a few minutes ago, that good sources of certain minerals is the liver, because the liver is a store of, acts as a store of many nutrients, including many minerals. So liver stores the copper temporarily, and then is now incorporated into what? Celluloplasmin, which is the main copper carrying protein. Though albumin may carry for a short time, this is the main carrying protein, copper carrying protein. Now when it binds with a copper, it picks the pam in the blood, carries them to the place where they will be needed for the function for making pigments, that is colors for the skin of the body or different parts. Picks from the body, it carries to the place, drops it in the site where it's needed for the growth of the bones. Pick in different places, take to different sites. Each time it picks and drops in a place, it goes back, pick more, drops in a place, pick more, drops in the site where it is going to be needed, pick more, go back, and that is how they do it. Most transporting amino acids. Now, after transportation and then moving to the liver, there is the distribution. Celluloplasmin carries it, I've already explained it already, carries copper to the tissues where they are used for what? Pick them, binds with copper here, bind, and then carry them to what? To enzyme production sites where enzymes are produced, because copper is an essential part of some enzymes. Also, for iron metabolism, in what? The metabolism of iron, copper is important. Then energy production, in the production of ATP and the others. Now, after this function is done, if there happen to be an excess of copper in the blood, what happens? It is like any other nutrient, excreted. Through what? Through the bile, near the liver, and also feces. Very few amount is excreted via urine. So you see it now. You see how copper is absorbed through the small intestine and then carried through the blood by protein binding or copper carrying protein. They bind to the copper in the blood and then move them to different places. First of all, they store in the liver, which turns out to be a very good source of most minerals, and then they transport to different functions where they perform the actual work by which we have them. Now, if you have a question based on what we've done, please ask in the comment section. If you've enjoyed or gained value, please share the video, please like and make your comments. You want to get more, subscribe, please. Thank you so much. It's good having you around. Let's meet again in the next. We'll be dealing with the functions and deficiency symptoms. The next class.